I took on this e-commerce brand right here, and in a period of just 2 months alone, scaled it by 229% in Google Ads revenue. Let's take a step back and understand the overall background and context of this e-commerce brand. So if you guys haven't already figured out, this is a mid to a high ticket e-commerce brand. I mean, within the last 30 days alone, if we look at how much revenue this brand has done, we can see here that in total, it has done about $11,000 in total revenue, not the biggest amount, but that's because of the overall limitations this brand has in terms of ad spend, but $11,000. And in total, we got roughly 103 orders right here. So 103 orders, that's going to equal $106 AOV. And this brand is not the biggest high ticket brand in the world, but it is a decent sized AOV. And by the way, this is an e-commerce brand under my Google Ads agency, Your Marketing, which we began working with on April 10th. But looking at the period from the 1st of February to the 9th of April, we can see during the earlier portion, there was little to no traction going on in terms of the campaigns. I mean, the campaigns were barely spending $1 to $3 for the entirety of this first month of February, well into March. And starting middle of March is when the ad spend really started to increase. But if you notice right here, there was no conversion value recorded. That's because that was not installed properly for this e-commerce brand. And if you look right here, it may seem like conversion tracking was eventually installed. This was not when we started working together, but this was also incorrectly installed. I mean, if you look at some of these numbers, $43 in ad spend for $2,300 in sales, absolutely insane. It's not true because the conversion tracking was a complete mess. So when I began working with this ad account, we had to kind of not even begin with the ad strategy itself, just because the entire foundation was also a complete mess. A lot of the images, a lot of the products even had, first of all, many merchant center issues. I mean, we can see that a lot of these still to this day have several issues going on with them, like limitations due to GTIN, which, by the way, for this brand, the GTIN issue should not have been an issue to begin with, because this is a real brand with real GTIN numbers. So that's where we began. We began by inserting all the proper information needed in the backend via the product feed, such as the product categories of the products, the attributes, the color, so on and so forth. Once that was done, then we moved on to the actual product titles. We incorporated more filler keywords along with more search engine based keywords. Filler keywords as in words like premium, luxury, portable, so on and so forth. Filler words which give definition to that given product, so it's not just bland. For example, let's say you sell wooden chairs. If you just write the title wooden chair for your product, I mean, that is good in terms of SEO, but in terms of making me want to buy as a potential customer, it doesn't really do the trick. And that's because there is no kind of feeling behind it. There's no kind of emotion behind it. It's very bland. It's very basic. But on the other hand, if you showed me a chair that was premium, luxurious, wooden, ancient styled chair or something like that with more filler words, I would be much more inclined to buy that chair. And even if the pricing was a bit higher than the other chairs, I would still want to buy that. Why? Because it's premium, it's luxurious, so on and so forth. So while we were fixing up the foundation, we were also working on an ad strategy to really kind of put things into effect, because whatever ad strategy they had during this time period, which was this one performance max campaign and then a shopping campaign, which didn't really make sense. They were running 3 different shopping campaigns. 2 of them didn't even spend $1, but there was really no strategy to begin with. The second shopping campaign right here, it was just for all products over $50. And this third shopping campaign was just products between $20 to $50. And then the fourth one was another shopping campaign for just all the products on the store. We did not want that. So right when we began work, we basically shut them off and started working on a brand new strategy. And the way we decided the strategy for this ad account, first of all, we looked at what strategies have worked for similar high ticket brands in the past for us. Because again, this is under my Google Ads agency, Your Marketing, and we work with a lot of brands across multiple different industries and niches. But in my experience, what I have seen work the best for mid to high ticket brands is more of a smart bidding based approach, especially for those brands that already have some kind of data coming in. Now, even though this e-commerce brand, the conversion tracking was completely wrong and it was not set up properly, there was still data in terms of ad spend on the account, in terms of impressions, so on and so forth. So keeping that in mind, what we did during the time period when we began work is we launched the 3-1 launch strategy. strategy. This is a lot different than what I normally recommend, but we launched 3 performance max campaigns and then 1 branded search campaigns. For the PMax campaigns, we wanted 1 campaign which would only be for the best sellers. Now, keep in mind, these bestsellers, they were not really what we got from Google Ads. Rather, they were bestsellers from their in-store location. But what we did is we used that data, we analyzed it, and also add data from other platforms like Facebook, TikTok, so on and so forth. And we came up with a list of the best sellers, because what we did is within this PMax campaign, we just put all those bestsellers in there. We wanted results a bit faster because this brand had been running ads since February with no real direction of where it was going. So that's what we did for one PMax. Then the other PMax that we launched, we wanted to test the other products in the store because there were still other products which were untested on this brand. What we did is we launched one PMax excluding bestsellers for products costing $20 and more inside of one PMax. And then the third PMax was just all products that was not the best sellers, but it cost less than $20 for those. In the beginning, that actually did start to get decent results. We were starting to see some traction going on. I mean, in the month from April 10th to April 30th, we spent $1,600 and we made back $16,000, which was a 10x ROAS, much higher than this brand has ever faced before in that time period. I mean, if we just compare it, we can see the revenue was already up within that 20-day period by 70%. And although it says the ROAS was down, in reality, the ROAS was increased because the ROAS before was incorrect. And this directly brought us into the optimization period, because when we launched these campaigns on the 10th of April, we decided not to touch it for the next 21 days. Why? Because the ad spend limitation that this brand had, it was on the lower end. They could not spend more than $50 to $200 a day. We would just go inside the PMax Insight section and change the time period to the last 28 days. That's why we waited at least 21 days, because then we were starting to get a lot of important data under this consumer spotlight section. Data such as what was the search category that was selling the best, what keywords were working the best, because what we did with this data is we went into the back end and we further optimized our product titles and our product descriptions. Because again, keep in mind, for this brand, spending more money was not an option. So instead, what we had to do is we had to lower the expenses unnecessarily that were getting spent and rather increase the profitability and the conversions based on what was already getting spent and based on what was working. So that's what we did here. We further looked into the other things such as the products, excluded any bad products. We also kept the restrictions within the settings for the PMax fairly low, because again, the budget was already low. We did not want to further restrict it by adding too big restrictions. So we kept the bidding with no target ROAS set, and that simply ended up doing the trick over time. But basically every 14 days we were optimizing the campaign from that period onwards, using the insight section, again improving the back end because we did not want to optimize anything further, and there was really not too many campaigns to even optimize to begin with. Eventually, as we started getting more data in, getting realistic results, we then started our scaling phase. And for this brand, again, scaling could not be aggressive because of their own internal limitations. So we decided against launching any more campaigns during this time period. Instead, what we did is we just launched one more search campaign for prospecting purposes, so to test out some of the best-selling products. But at the moment, it's in the testing phase and it's not really doing the best. But instead, and to scale profitably the revenue, what we did is we did not launch more PMax campaigns. We just focused on those 3 that were working the best. We came in and we steadily improved the budgets. We increased them by 5 to 10%, much lower than what I normally would every 21 days. Again, we did not want to add too much extra expenses. We wanted to keep everything very steady. So we just kind of stabilized the overall ad spend, we stabilized the overall revenue, and we kept it around this range right here. So in any given period now, they can spend maybe $300 to $500, but end up getting a significant increase in returns. I mean, $300 spent for $4,600 in revenue in the first week of June. So the long-term focus for this brand is not necessarily to get to $100,000 a month in Google Ads revenue. It's rather to have a mixture of traffic coming in for their in-store location, as well as continuously getting results online. Now, their in-store location traffic is more important to them, hence why they're not able to spend much more money on Google. That's because they have much lower expenses to deal with when it's in store for them, their brick and mortar location, versus their online store. But that's the long-term plan, mixture of in-store ads as well as the online traffic ads. So this is going to be more search campaigns to drive traffic to their store, but also search campaigns for other sales on their website and so on and so forth. And it's a very simple strategy and approach we took here. There was nothing too fancy or crazy. We ended up scaling it by 229%. But again, if you're doing $40,000 or more per month in revenue, you need just a little bit of extra help scaling your brand to the next level. Go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how we can potentially work together and make that happen.